The machine does not care about you. It operates. It optimizes. It replaces. This is the core logic of technological progress. It is a historical constant. From the clatter of 19th century power looms to the silent hum of today's algorithms, fear follows innovation. This fear is not irrational. It is a direct response to systemic disruption. Societies repeatedly confront this challenge. The question is not if technology threatens livelihoods. It is how power structures respond when human value is redefined.
Early 19th century Great Britain underwent profound change. The textile industry dominated. Skilled artisans formed its backbone. Hand-loom weavers and framework knitters held specialized knowledge, often passed down through generations of family tradition. Their craft defined their existence, their social standing, and their economic security. Apprenticeships, typically 7 years in duration, passed intricate skills across generations. Families in Nottinghamshire, Yorkshire, and Lancashire relied on this system, often working from cottages in small, interconnected communities. It was a social contract, informal yet deeply entrenched. It provided a defined place within the economic hierarchy. It offered stable income, often allowing for a degree of autonomy and dignity. Artisans maintained control over their pace and quality of work. The Industrial Revolution promised efficiency. New machines emerged, fundamentally altering production methods. The power loom, significantly refined by Edmund Cartwright in the late 18th century and later improved by inventors like Richard Roberts, automated weaving on an unprecedented scale. Wide stocking frames, such as those introduced by William Lee in the late 16th century, but massively scaled up and mechanized by the early 1800s, accelerated knitting, producing multiple items simultaneously. These innovations aimed to increase output exponentially. They sought to reduce reliance on expensive, often unionized, skilled labor. Manufacturers presented them as inevitable progress, a pathway to greater productivity and national wealth. For artisans, these machines were an existential threat. They were tangible usurpers, not merely tools. Their craft, their income, their very identity faced eradication. A skilled hand-loom weaver earning 25 shillings a week in 1800 saw wages plummet to below 6 shillings by 1830, often for longer hours and poor conditions. The active hand-loom weaver population, once estimated at over 250,000 across Britain, began a precipitous decline, dropping by more than half within 2 decades. This systemic shift was not merely technological. It targeted an entrenched way of life, a moral economy built on quality and fair remuneration. Fear and resentment festered, transforming into a deep sense of betrayal. It erupted into overt resistance. Established power structures faced fundamental challenge. The tools designed to enhance them now threatened their foundation. This was the nascent machinery of fear. Between 1811 and 1816, discontent became organized sabotage. The Luddite rebellions were not random acts of vandalism, they were calculated assaults, strategically targeting specific symbols of the new industrial order, the machines themselves. General Ned Ludd, a mythical figure, became their unifying figurehead, a symbol of collective resistance. Framework knitters initiated destruction in Nottinghamshire in November 1811, fearing job displacement and severe wage depression. They specifically targeted new, wider frames that produced inferior, cheaper goods quickly, undermining the market for quality, hand-knitted items. Hand-loom weavers, seeing their livelihoods eradicated by power looms in Lancashire and Yorkshire, soon joined the movement, their grievances mirroring those of the knitters. These groups operated under cover of darkness, utilizing guerrilla tactics. They raided factories and workshops, systematically dismantling or destroying machinery with sledgehammers and axes, often leaving behind notes signed by Ned Ludd. Their targets were specific manufacturers who lowered wages, employed unapprenticed or child labor, or produced substandard goods. Luddites issued anonymous threats, conducted military-style drills in remote areas, and organized through secret oaths, creating a pervasive psychological warfare against the industrial elite. This was not merely anti-technology, it was a protest against the erosion of traditional labor practices, quality standards, and a moral economy where profit did not supersede human welfare. The state's response was swift and brutal. The Frame-Breaking Act of 1812, rushed through Parliament, made machine destruction a capital offense, punishable by death. Thousands of troops were deployed. Over 12,000 British soldiers quelled the unrest, a force larger than Wellington's command in the Peninsular War at that time. Arrests, trials, and executions followed with chilling efficiency. In January 1813, 14 Luddites, including leaders like George Mellor, were publicly hanged in York after mass trials. Others were transported to penal colonies in Australia, effectively exiling them from society. The Luddites were crushed, their resistance proving futile against the overwhelming force of the state and the inexorable march of industrial capital. Technological advancement continued unabated. Their actions revealed a profound societal fracture. A system built on human labor and traditional skills faced obsolescence, generating immense fear and a desperate struggle for survival. It showed the state's prioritization of burgeoning industrial capital over the welfare and established rights of skilled labor. The machinery of fear had been activated, its gears turning not only in the factories but within the very structures of governance and law. The suppression of the Luddites did not halt the Industrial Revolution. It cleared its path. The systemic impact was profound and multifaceted, reshaping the very fabric of society. Economically, new machinery drove unprecedented productivity. Cotton output, for example, skyrocketed from 5.2 million pounds in 1770 to 588 million pounds by 1850. Mass production accelerated, costs plummeted, and markets expanded globally. This generated immense wealth, forming the bedrock of British industrial power and fueling its global empire. This growth, however, carried significant social costs. The factory system centralized production, forcing populations to migrate from rural areas into rapidly expanding industrial cities. Manchester's population exploded from 75,000 in 1801 to over 300,000 by 1851. Birmingham and Leeds swelled similarly. Conditions were often squalid, with overcrowding, poor sanitation, and rampant disease. Labor became a commodity, stripped of its artisanal value. Workers, including women and children as young as 5, toiled for long hours, often 14-16 hours a day, 6 days a week, in dangerous, unventilated factories. Wages were often subsistence level, barely enough to survive. The Factory Act of 1833, limiting child labor to 9 hours for children aged 9 to 13, and the Mines Act of 1842, prohibiting women and children from working underground, were belated and often weakly enforced responses to these egregious conditions. The social contract was not merely rewritten, it was dictated by the machine and the factory owner. Wealth concentrated rapidly. Industrialists like Richard Arkwright, the pioneer of the factory system, and Robert Peel, a textile magnate and future prime minister, amassed vast fortunes, often built on the exploitation of cheap labor and the ruthless efficiency of their new machinery. New divisions emerged, starkly separating capital from labor. This era solidified a principle: empires rise on optimized production systems and efficient resource allocation, even when such systems necessitate vast social disruption, deep inequality, and the dehumanization of the workforce. The fear of job loss, once a localized Luddite grievance, became pervasive. The widening wealth gap between the industrial titans and the factory proletariat became a permanent feature of the new economic landscape. These were not temporary anomalies of a nascent system, they were inherent outcomes. The system prioritized mechanical efficiency and capital accumulation, often devaluing human welfare, traditional skills, and community cohesion. The Luddite legacy was a foundational lesson in this new order, not a mere historical footnote. Technological revolutions carry systemic consequences that reshape society from within, often with brutal efficiency, driven by the machinery of fear. 2 centuries later, Luddite echoes resonate, chillingly precise. The modern parallel is not a mechanical loom, but an algorithm. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced automation are rapidly redefining labor across every sector. Generative AI writes code, automating tasks once performed by junior developers. OpenAI's ChatGPT, launched in November 2022, drafts complex text, reports, and marketing copy. impacting content creators, journalists, and administrative staff. Google's Gemini composes music and generates video scripts. Midjourney and DALL-E create sophisticated visual art. These tools do not merely assist, they perform, often at scale and speed that humans cannot match. Threatening to displace millions of creative and knowledge workers, robotics manage warehouses with increasing autonomy. Amazon Robotics, which acquired Kiva Systems for $775 million in 2012, now utilizes over 750,000 robotic drive units globally. This has reduced human sorter requirements by 25–30% in newer fulfillment centers, significantly cutting labor costs. Autonomous vehicles promise displacement on an even larger scale. Google's Waymo and GM's Cruise operate fully driverless taxi services in major cities like Phoenix, San Francisco, and Austin. Tesla's full self-driving technology continues to advance. These technologies threaten the jobs of millions of taxi, rideshare, and long-haul truck drivers. The U.S. trucking industry alone employs 3.5 million drivers, a significant portion of whom face potential obsolescence. The scope of this technological shift is unprecedented. Fear of job displacement spreads, permeating not just manual labor but knowledge work, creative industries, and service sectors. AI does not merely enhance human capability. In many domains, it replaces it entirely. Routine cognitive tasks are automated at scale. Customer service roles are increasingly absorbed by chatbots and virtual assistants. Bank of America reports its AI assistant, Erica, handling over 80% of routine customer inquiries, completing billions of interactions annually. Data analysis, once a specialized and highly valued skill, is increasingly outsourced to algorithms, a field pioneered by systems like IBM Watson. This leads to systemic pressures mirroring the industrial era. Widespread job loss is not merely possible but probable, particularly for roles involving repetitive cognitive tasks. Wages for remaining human roles face downward pressure as the supply of available labor increases and the demand for specialized human skills shifts. Anxiety about work intensifies, giving rise to a new form of the machinery of fear. Its gears are invisible lines of code, its power distributed through data centers. Yet its psychological and economic impact remains identical. Wealth concentrates at an alarming rate in the hands of those who control the algorithms, the data, and the computational infrastructure. Companies like Microsoft, with its multi-billion-dollar investment in OpenAI, Google, Alphabet, and NVIDIA, whose GPUs are essential for AI training, drive unprecedented market capitalization. NVIDIA's valuation surged past $2 trillion in 2024, reflecting its critical role in the AI boom. The broader workforce faces an existential reckoning. McKinsey Global Institute estimates that 375 million workers globally may need to switch occupations by 2030 due to automation. The World Economic Forum predicts 85 million jobs will be displaced by AI and automation by 2025 across 26 major economies. This reveals a recurring pattern: technological advancement, economic growth, widespread social disruption, and pervasive fear of obsolescence. The system optimizes itself for efficiency and profit. It does not prioritize human employment or social stability without external intervention. The Luddite story is a blueprint for contemporary responses to AI. Today, societal resistance manifests differently, adapted to the digital age. It ranges from calls for stringent AI regulation and ethical governance frameworks, with groups like the Future of Life Institute advocating for bans on autonomous weapons and robust safety protocols for advanced AI. It includes nascent labor movements, such as the Alphabet Workers Union, demanding algorithmic transparency, fair use of AI in performance reviews, and worker protections against displacement. The question, "Can we break the algorithm?" is a modern rephrasing of the Luddite attempts to halt the looms. History suggests direct technological suppression is futile. Economic incentives drive progress. Systemic power, often backed by state apparatus, prevails. However, the Luddite era also paved the way for new models and social contracts, albeit after significant struggle and suffering. The chaos of early industrialization eventually yielded labor laws, worker safety regulations, and the development of social safety nets. The Beveridge Report of 1942 in the UK led directly to the establishment of the National Health Service and a comprehensive welfare state. The U.S. New Deal in the 1930s established unemployment insurance, Social Security, and codified worker rights, fundamentally redefining the relationship between capital, labor, and the state. Similarly, current AI automation discourse drives radical proposals for societal adaptation. Universal Basic Income, UBI, is frequently discussed as a means to decouple livelihood from labor. Experiments in Finland 2017-2018 and Stockton, CA 2019-2021 explored its efficacy, demonstrating potential for improved mental health and financial stability, though not necessarily increased employment. Massive public and private investment in retraining and reskilling initiatives is proposed globally. Singapore's Skills Future program, launched in 2015, models a national effort to adapt human capital to a rapidly changing economy. There is a growing movement to fundamentally redefine work and value in a post-scarcity, post-labor economy. If human labor is no longer the primary driver of production, what then is the basis for human dignity and economic participation? The challenge is immense. Societal structures must adapt. Educational systems must evolve to foster uniquely human skills, creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence that resist algorithmic replication. Political frameworks require transformation to manage wealth redistribution and ensure equitable access to the benefits of AI. This adaptation must match, or ideally precede, technological acceleration. History demonstrates a pattern. Technology brings immense economic growth and significant social disruption. It generates fear of job loss and exacerbates wealth inequality. These are not bugs in the system. They are inherent features. They define every major technological revolution. The ultimate stability of future empires depends not on AI embrace, but on managing its systemic fallout. It depends on mitigating the machinery of fear. It depends on constructing new social contracts that can sustain a technologically transformed society, ensuring broad-based prosperity rather than concentrated power. The system will not save you. You must adapt or be consumed.